Hey guys, Paul here. So we're going to talk Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG Banlist predictions because it's that time of the year again. It's almost the end of August. We've got new products on the horizon and a format that a lot of people are a little bit tired of, a little bit worn out with. So yeah, we'll probably be getting a ban list here in the next week or so. I figure I'll just throw my hat in the ring. And as a disclaimer, I have actually not been following super closely with the TCG kind of competitive format. I have mostly just been like hearing things from friends. I've looked up a few games and stuff myself, played a tad bit of like EDO Pro and that sort of thing. But generally speaking, I'm a bit of a noob with this. So, forgive me if I'm just woefully ignorant and uninformed. You guys can talk all about it in the comments and correct me or inform me. Just be respectful, all right? Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep this pretty quick. First things first, we've got a lot of decks, then we've got some sort of staple like cards, and then finally things I think can come back. So we'll start, I think, from like most to least, like, priority bans and stuff like that, right? First things first, Kashitra. This deck has been around for so long. It actually feels like even longer than it has been. I don't know if it's because like Yu-Gi-Oh's kind of had so much whiplash with like the tier 0, like, the Sprite and the tier, and then like immediately Kashitra and then all that stuff. But the main card I think is the culprit here is Kashitra Arise Heart. It's just crazy that this card does so much. It's 3k, 3k, it's Macro Cosmos, it banishes, it doesn't run out of materials, and you guys know how this thing works. And it's already like stuck on top of an already strong deck in Kashitra. I think the main thing that Arise Heart, like the main problem it causes in the format is that it's warped everything around what decks can deal with Kashitra Arise Heart. Can you out an Arise Heart, or can you play around Arise Heart being on the board? If you can't, your deck can't win, and that means that this card is like hyper, like just polarizing. It needs to be banned. I think everybody agrees on this. I just do not care for this card. I'm mostly a Master Duel player, and I'm not looking forward to this card even coming out in Master Duel. Hopefully they at least release it at one, but I don't even know what they're going to do. Anyway, this is about the TCG. So yeah, I think this card definitely has to get banned. If this card alone got banned, I actually think that Kashitra would just fall in line with like everything else, and it would probably be okay. But I still do think that it deserves another hit in the form of Kashitra Fenrir. And this is a mix of like it being a very strong card in Kashitra because it searches everything, but also just in other decks. It easily replaced Dino Wrestler Pankratops as just the like free summon, free advantage, hard to deal with, hard to kind of interact with card. So I was joking on Twitter the other day about how this card can like single-handedly like solo entire low tier decks. Like this card is better than entire decks are. It's such a self-sufficient, strong thing. So I honestly think this thing could go to like 1, or if you want to maybe be generous, you could put Fenrir to 2. But either way, I think that it's so good. I would like to see the back of it. Some people said Unicorn. I don't have like too much of a problem with Unicorn. I think at 2 it's all right, and I think if you combine like that with Fenrir or something going to 1, it would be pretty much fine with me, at least. Next is Branded. This is another one of those decks that's just been around for so gosh darn long. I'm actually surprised the TCG has been as like reserved about hitting this deck as it has, but there are a number of different things that kind of just need to go. I mean, I think everybody agrees that the Gimmick Puppet needs to just be banned. Like, honestly, anytime there's a card like that, like even Hot Red King, Archfiend Calamity, I'm just going to go ahead and say that now, needs to get banned. Any of these cards like this, just get out of them. Just get them out of here fast. Like, don't waste time with debating whether or not that's okay. Turn, skip, stuff like that, probably just better off gone for people's satisfaction more than anything. But as far as like Branded itself getting hit, I think it's probably time for Branded Fusion to just get like limited or something. I know some Branded players hate to hear that, but I mean the deck's been around for so long, and this deck really does center so heavily on Branded Fusion. It's such a like one card, just everything card, and I think putting it to 1 would mean that the deck is still playable, but it's a lot less consistent. Some people would say, well, that means it'll just completely lose to Ash now, but like it kind of has the reputation of losing to Ash so. I don't know. I just think that like Branded's been around so long that that's my reason for wanting it to go. You could even maybe hit like Branded Opening. That could be a thing. Put that to 1 or 2. But I would say just Branded Fusion to 1 would be fine. It's not like the deck would be unplayable. I just think it would rein it in a little bit. And those are like the 2 decks that probably feel like they're the highest priority to get hit. Everything else that I'm going to mention is stuff where it's like it probably needs to get hit because it's been around for sort of long, and it might like rise up because these other decks got hit. So I'll go a little faster. Sprites, I thought Sprite was dead with Sprite Elf being banned. I remember thinking that to myself, and it's like, nope, definitely not. Loads of different Sprite variants. I've seen For Hire, I've seen Runic, I've seen, what is the other one that people play? Like the Tri Brigade thing, which is kind of usually mixed with For Hire. But the point is, yeah, I think you could either go Sprite Jet to 1 or Sprite Starter to 1. I'm kind of team Sprite Starter to 1, but I've heard both opinions. You guys can just let me know which one it is. Next is Purrely. This one's a little bit, so I really didn't think that this deck would be as crazy as it has been, but it's like kind of the control, protect the tower, just obnoxious deck. I think Purrely's Sleepy Memory could just go to 1. It surprised me that they didn't do that already. It's a common, so it's pretty easy for this sort of thing to get limited and not feel like people have been burned for their investment or something. Still keeps the deck playable, but I remember I was watching a game where somebody was like drawing like 3 cards in the standby phase from this. And I was like, that gives me like Runic Fountain vibes, and I don't like it, so I said, you know, yeah, Sleepy Memory could just go to 1. Hits the consistency of the deck a little bit, and also just like drawing 3 seems insane to me. There's the possibility of that. I think the OCG has this card at 1 too, so it would just be kind of creating some parity. Next, I think Dragon Link is probably one of those ones that's gonna have to go. It's been around so long, and now that it won Worlds, which I know is not like a 1-to-1 with the TCG, but now that it won Worlds, I think it's definitely going to be on Konami's radar a little bit more. There are 2 ways you could hit it, or maybe like 3. I think that the Bestials are obviously a very big part. I would say Bestial Magnamute could easily go to 1. It's just, it searches any dragon, come on. I also think that you could maybe even go for like Bestial Lubellion if you want to hit something like that to like 2 or to 1, because it's just such a big consistency thing. It puts in overtime with that deck. I honestly think Massendrill had the right idea of it with like releasing a lot of the Bestials just pre-limited and stuff. I mean, I don't think it needs to get hit on this list. I think that even things like Drua's Worm feel just very overtuned. It's, you know, a body on board that like your opponent has to get rid of it somehow, and then like by getting rid of it, they just lose their field, or you can just like link it off and stuff and clear fields along the way, so that's a bit much. But yeah, I think that really I'm more of like a Magnamute Lubellion type of guy, which I guess inadvertently hits Brandon a little bit more if you want to. I don't know if that like factors into your decision. The other thing is that there's stuff like Quick Launch and Chaos Space that I've always felt are, you know, they're pretty good starter cards, like in Dragon Link, and I'm always shocked that that stuff doesn't just go to 1 as well. You know, granted, I know there's a lot of decks now that have like some spell that just sort of like gets them the thing they need, so maybe that's not the best hit here, but I think either one of those could go to 1, and that would definitely help. Some people say Striker Dragon should just get banned outright and we could kind of cut this deck off at the throat. Maybe, but I think that's a little bit harsh, so I don't say it maybe would be the best thing. Although a Link monster that I do think is a little bit like slips by the radar is actually the Hermetic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, or whatever it's called. That thing is surprisingly like better than I thought it was. I don't know, it seems like it's one of those great cards. It's like a disruption and can be like an extender starter like setup thing. It's a lot. I don't know if that's the sort of thing that Konami would really hit, but feels like it could be, so maybe you ban that instead, but I don't know. Okay, and there's one other deck that kind of came to mind for me, and that was the Plant deck. Now this is the deck that I know the least about, so somebody can inform me if like I'm thinking about this correctly here. I thought that maybe they so I don't think the Rika stuff is very broken or anything. Like I play pure Rika and stuff all the time, and I don't find the deck to be broken. I think that it's more so the Sunvine cards. But maybe if you wanted to just hit like a middle ground, you could hit Aromatherapy Jasmine. Like even just putting it to 1 could significantly slow this deck's roll, or maybe you ban it, although I'm not really sure. It's kind of interesting. A lot of those Link monsters that are like, that came in like, what is it, Dual Overload, all seem like they just kind of find their way on the ban list eventually, so maybe that would be the easiest way. But I don't know. I'm not informed enough about the Plant deck, so please tell me what the best thing to hit in that deck is, if it even needs to be hit at all. And I think that pretty much covers the like decks that need to be hit. I know some people talk about Runic as well, so I was gonna say maybe like Fountain to 1 instead of at 2, just because like it makes it a little bit more vulnerable. But I think that alone would probably be fine for it. So yeah, Runic Fountain to 1. Okay, now we have a few one-off, or not like one, they're staple cards. I want to talk about these. So I've heard a lot of people say that Triple Tactics Talent should maybe get hit. I'm not sure. I do not play at top tables, at least certainly not currently in Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's one of those ones where it seems like, you know, some people have very strong reasons why they think it should, some people don't. I'm gonna leave it alone in my little imaginary ban list, but I do think that maybe Pot of Prosperity could go to 1 or 2. I, for a while, thought this card seemed fine because like it's not a +1 in card advantage, so how bad could it be? But then I realized that with so many decks having so many, like access to a lot of different engines, it feels like this can really push combo decks over the edge. And it can also allow a person to just see really strong kind of board breaking cards. You can like see, you know, the Dark Ruler No More, the Evenly Matched, and like all sorts of other like cards like that. So maybe this card goes to 1 or 2. Master Duel put it to 1, so like there's might be like something there. I don't have super strong feelings on it, but I figured I should mention it, and you guys can inform me if that's like a meaningful idea or not, like worth entertaining. However, there are some traps that I think should get hit. So you might notice that I did not actually mention the Labyrinth deck and my list of decks that should get hit. And I don't think that Labyrinth itself should necessarily get hit. I don't find it particularly obnoxious, but I do think that 2 cards should. Probably, sadly, Eradicator Epidemic Virus and Dimensional Barrier. Now, I used to be a bit, not like an Eradicator defender, but I didn't think that Eradicator was like an inherently like just bannable card. It's just that now that there's a deck that can search it, it feels really, really obnoxious. Because we've seen this card, you know, decide matches on feature matches of like live streams for a while now, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's on Konami's radar just for that reason. And I think the Dimensional Barrier is kind of the same way. It's another card where I don't have like a huge problem with D-Barrier, but I do think that once again, the fact that there's like a deck now that can search it and even recycle it, overturn, means it might just be better off banned. I mean, honestly, people have hated this card for years, so this might just be the excuse to just go ahead and do it. So both those cards, I think if they were banned, would mean that like playing against Labyrinth doesn't feel like such a miserable thing, because Labyrinth is actually like playing you with its deck and its engine and not just these like complete blowout cards. So yeah, and some people have said skill drain. I'm not so sure. It always seems like Konami's a little bit more lenient on these floodgates than maybe they ought to be. So that's why I'm assuming it probably wouldn't get hit. I think it's like a greater chance that Eradicator and Barrier get hit first. So even though, you know, I don't love Skill Drain's existence or really Floodgates in general, the TCG seems like it doesn't mind them much, so maybe they're okay. And then there's Dimension Shifters, the last one I wanted to talk about, which I think is a card that, while I quite like Shifter, I've just come around to the idea that it's really pretty brutal and unfair when this thing drops. So maybe they ban it, or maybe they put it to like 1. I don't know. I think that 1 Shifter seems a little sacky, and that might not be very fun for people. But I will say this, and I don't know how much this like counts for, but Dimension Shifter is actually at 2 in Master Duel compared to like 3 in the TCG. And while it doesn't seem like a big difference, it's people don't see it. It doesn't show up as much in like these best of 1 games. So maybe they could put it to 2. I don't know, maybe just ban the thing and be done with it. Anyway, all right. There's a few cards that I think could come back. Honestly, I think that Pankratops at this point could like come to 2. Maybe don't like send it straight to 3, because we already have like Kashitra Fenrir, and we see what like that deals with and, you know, how that gets. But I think maybe like bring Pankratops back to 2. I don't know. I think it's fine. There's so many strong blowout going second cards that it's not the worst thing in the world. You could keep it at 1 if you want. I'm not, again, don't have strong opinions on that. Just kind of throwing it out there. I think Gazelle definitely should go to 2. Really, probably 3, but at least 2, because like, what is it, Salamander? It's just got a bunch of support in that new Soul Burning Volcano set. So perhaps putting Gazelle to 2 might help them increase the perceived value of said set. And then something like Salamander to Fire might actually be like a really big chase card and a reason to buy the set, perhaps. And I think Orcus Harp Horror, once again, is just one of those cards. Master Duel has proven that this card is a-okay. No one's going to be like spamming Orcus at top tables. Bring this, at least bring it back to like 1, I don't know, I mean, come on. I also think that the Dragon Rulers, I've said for a while, these things just, they're dated, they really have been power crept. I know someone's going to be like, oh, but Dragon Link will do. That's fine, let them do it. You know, honestly, I think that you can at least bring back, you know, just bring them all back. Like, put them all at 1 or something and just see what happens. I think that you would be pleasantly surprised how little these cards will actually do. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else that came to mind for me immediately. I mean, there's like lots of cards that can maybe gradually find their way to 2. I thought of like Spellbook of Judgment. I don't think like that was causing much of a problem at 1. And I think like Ancient Fairy Dragon, you know, Post Errata and everything could go to 3. I don't think anyone's gonna play stuff like that. So yeah, those are my ban list predictions. Let me know what you guys think. I will again remind you that I have not been closely following the competitive TCG, so I'm not fully informed. This is just kind of based on observation and stuff like that. And yeah, you know, we've got these tins just around the corner, which will be likely reprinting a lot of stuff, you know, from like Kashitra and like Sprite and kind of those sorts of things. So I have a feeling that those are also the decks that will be taking the most hits when the ban list almost certainly drops shortly after its release. Anyways, that's going to be it. Share your opinions down in the comments, and I'll see you guys probably tomorrow for a new video where we don't have to talk about this ban list. Or maybe it'll be a reaction to a ban list announcement from Konami. Who is to say? Alright, it's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Best turn.